I guess this one doesn't matter. So yeah, here's where I should be. What's up, Brandon? How are you, man? Glad to have you here. Hey, Nikhil, what's going on, buddy?
Look at that. Everybody's coming in.
Fantastic. So let's maybe wait another minute-ish, Brian, before we kick things off. Let's hopefully get some more folks to join here on Meerkat, get more folks to join on Periscope.
Here, let me. There you go. There's the man, Jeff Golberg. How's it going, Mommy? How's it going, Jan? If you guys could swipe left, swipe right, or if you're on Android, swipe up and share with your followers, that would rock. We've done, between the two of us, almost probably 1,500 live streams now in like 2.5 months. So Jeff, I've talked about him a lot as one of my favorite streamers, and this is the first time I'm bringing him on my stream to talk to everybody about really what he's been doing. And what we've learned, because we both use both apps. So yes, we are all set. So yeah, here, let me put up his Twitter handle real quick so you guys can see all that fun. And it's Golberg without the D, right, Jeff? I'm sure you get that all the time.
Indeed, correct. I always joke, my parents gave everybody 2 chances to screw my name up. It's Jeff with a G rather than a J, and then Golberg with no D. So they didn't make it easy on me, that's for sure.
No, they definitely screwed you in that whole scheme of things. They gave you Jeff with the G and then Golberg without the D. It sounds like a rhyme, though. You could almost do a rap song with that.
That is true, my friend. That is true.
What's up, Vincenzo Landino? There he is. Oh. He's the one that just said follow me in there, and so he's also doing it on. He's live streaming on Meerkat. We both were on Meerkat early on. I've gone on record saying he's my favorite Meerkatter that exists. So I'm going to retweet his Meerkat one if you guys are into the Meerkat as well, so you guys can see that. All right.
Brian, appreciate it.
Of course, my friend. All right, so let's get this party started real quick. Here, let me jump into your Meerkat and share that out. Stephen Cogliano, thanks, my friend. Hey, Mitch Jackson, how are you? Told people to join. Oh, thank you, Tiger Wan. Thank you. All right, there you go. That looks big. All right.
So I'm a little surprised, actually, with the number of subscribers I had to the stream on Meerkat, that there are so few people here currently.
Well, I think, you know what, I noticed the push notification the last couple of days on Meerkat has actually taken a little bit while for the ones that I subscribed to. Like the ones that, like the go live ones have been going live pretty quickly, but the push notifications have taken a little bit more.
Got it. Interesting. Okay.
All right, here. Oh, I see yours now.
Hang on. What were you saying?
All right.
I'm just going to turn the TV down a little bit because my wife is saying that she can't hear my voice at all.
No, on his Periscope.
On his Periscope, you can't hear my voice because of this TV, yeah?
Not this TV. This TV needs to be on.
Oh, can you turn my volume down a little bit, I guess, Brian? Or my volume up a little bit, rather?
Can she hear me now on there? Or you talk?
Dolly. Hey, Dolly. Come here real quick if you don't mind, please, babe, and let us know if it's better now.
Yeah, it should be better.
All right. I think we should be set now. All right, cool.
All right, Jeff. So let's start this off. I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself. Let people know what you're about, background, and we'll go from there.
Sure, sounds good, man. So hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Golberg. As Brian mentioned earlier, it's Jeff with a G and Golberg with no D. So I work as a marketing consultant for startups. I've been doing that for the past few years. Prior to that, I've worked for both startups and large public companies, mainly focused around search and display. I've done some stuff as a business analyst. I've done very operational work where I've been in the weeds, so to speak, in various ad buying platforms, advertising exchanges on the display side. So yeah, more recently, I've been very much so a huge fan of live mobile video since Meerkat and Periscope launched. So right now, I'm just working with one client. I've turned down some clients, frankly, because I want to focus my efforts around live mobile video streaming. And I'm spending probably a good 40 hours plus each week, either streaming, viewing the streams of others, and meeting with people to discuss this stuff because I'm very bullish on it, and my intention is to build a business around it, not one where I monetize my own streams, but it's just a space that I'm super keen on. So the best way to learn about it, frankly, is to immerse yourself in it, and that's quite literally what I'm doing. I've done over 900 streams now across Meerkat and Periscope over the past few months, and I'm happy to be here with Brian. Really enjoy Brian's streaming as well, and the content he pushes out as well is quite excellent. So I have been following Brian for a while on Twitter, but the beauty of Meerkat and live streaming, I guess more broadly, is that I've become closer to Brian after this, and similar to a number of other people as well, and it's really fantastic.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's so funny how that works, right? We look at each other in our eyeballs, and we all of a sudden relate a little bit more. Hold on. Hey, can you turn your volume down here?
Yes. Okay, I turn it down now. Let me know how it is when you speak now, Brian.
Yeah, so I think that should be better. Yeah, it's better now. So Jeff, we both have similar backgrounds, but yet you've taken a different approach to live streaming. So we both try to live stream what the audience is about, less than what we are. But let people know, you're not live streaming marketing advice. What are you live streaming? What was your approach?
Sure. So, yeah, you're absolutely correct. When I stream, let me take a step back, I suppose. So for me, I was on Meerkat since it was a top product hunt, which I believe was February 27th. At the time, Meerkat only had iOS. They weren't Android, and I didn't have an iOS device. I had my wife's iPad, which I didn't really feel like I wanted to use that. So initially, for the first week or two on Meerkat, all I was doing was viewing the streams of others. For a number of reasons. I didn't want to have the camera on me. I also felt as though, although I do kind of have some stuff to speak about, I prefer to keep some of my tactics, a little bit closer to the vest, I suppose. So I just didn't really want to talk about marketing-related things. I ended up caving eventually, getting an iOS device, and for me, since I didn't feel comfortable putting my face on the stream, I started off just kind of streaming the Empire State Building from the roof deck of my building here in Manhattan because the view was quite nice. I kind of quickly realized that, hey, New York, the sights and sounds of New York City, this is really evergreen stuff. People constantly want to see Times Square. People constantly want to see Grand Central Terminal. People want to see musicians performing in the subway. And so for me, that was fantastic. I didn't feel comfortable showing myself on the camera initially, so this was a nice way for me to kind of get my feet wet with it all. So that's typically what I've streamed. I've also gone to a number of startup tech events. I was at something by Dream It Accelerator where Fred Wilson was a speaker there from Union Square Ventures. I've been invited to a number of invite-only events from First Mark Capital because they want to get additional exposure around some of their portfolio companies. And it's so I guess my point is initially it was more so around the sights and sounds of New York City, but now I'm kind of trying to diversify the content. But your point is exactly correct that when I stream, it's not about me, and I always make this clear during my streams. That's which is why I don't put the camera on me, and it's really about interacting and engaging with the viewers because for me that's the most important thing. And that just reminds me I should catch up on the comments here, but I'll throw it to you now, Brian.
No. People were asking if Periscope has T-shirts. No, Periscope doesn't have T-shirts. I'm still hearing myself through your side. Hold on. Actually, you know what? I'll mute you on here whenever There we go. All right, so I think that'll work better because you can still hear me, but then I'll unmute whenever you jump on. All right, so Jeff, one of the things that I thought was interesting is I've called you one of my favorite streamers of all the streamers on both platforms, and I don't say that we have no skin in the game. You're someone I met via live streaming, but it's interesting hearing someone like yourself. For me, I've been doing video blogging. I've been jumping on video since day one, right? And so for me, getting on video was no big deal. For you, it was something that I remember. I knew your voice from watching 40 of your streams before I ever saw your face. And I think a lot of people that are listening and are watching are probably like, wait a second, I'm in the same boat Jeff was. Like, I didn't want to get on video. I wasn't, too embracing it. Now I think you're much more comfortable. I've seen you doing, 360s, selfie version of the 360 at different events in New York. So talk to me a little bit. Tell people about what, you initially started streaming walking around New York City. And I quoted out there earlier, earlier this month, I said, I feel like I know New York City really well thanks to Jeff's live streams. So talk through the process of what it went from you streaming and providing value to getting a little bit more comfortable on the video to doing it so frequently, but always providing high quality. Because I think too many people right now kind of miss the quality versus the quantity. So I'm curious from your standpoint, how did you get over the two of those? And then how did that merge over the last couple of months? Just make sure you unmute now that I muted you. Up the top. At the top, if you put your mouse over in the middle of the top, you'll see the top of your picture. You'll see the red icon for mute.
Got it. So
yep, now you're good.
I should be. Now you're good. Cool. Yeah. So it's a good question. I think that, frankly, for me, I realized really quickly that the Sights and Sounds of New York City was a nice, I hate using this term, but it was a nice growth hack, if you will, to really climb the Meerkat leaderboard. And to me, I view having a strong position on the Meerkat leaderboard as very valuable real estate. When people join Meerkat, oftentimes they'll look at the leaderboard, and that's how they're going to determine who they're going to be following. So for me, it's not, I don't care about the leaderboard for the sake of saying, hey, I'm in 7th place, or hey, I'm in 5th place, I'm in 12th place. For me, the value truly is in occupying that real estate. I realized really quickly that Sights and Sounds of New York City were going to help me accomplish that. I've gone to Times Square more times in the past 4 months than I have in the previous 10 years that I've lived in New York. I don't enjoy going to Times Square particularly much, but I go there because it's stuff that I know the viewers kind of are going to appreciate. So once I kind of had established a brand for myself around streaming, I suppose, I figured that would then be a nice time to transition to kind of showing folks more so what I'm about. I really enjoy tech, entrepreneurship, marketing, so I try to go to events of that sort as well and to stream those. I don't know that there was necessarily a pivotal moment where I became comfortable being on the camera, but I think just after doing lots of streams, it's something that you become very well versed in, and over time, I suppose I developed more of a willingness to have my face be shown during my streams.
So I'm curious from a standpoint of, like overall, I'd say engagement and value from what you're seeing. And I love the way you said, you get a strategic approach. And for those that know, I tweeted out, I posted on Instagram today, I got my 20,000th follower on Meerkat today. So I hit 20,000 exactly today, which I thought was pretty interesting. But I don't have 5,000 followers on Periscope yet. So, the understanding the difference between the followers, and not only the followers, but who people follow, and then how their engagement matters. Because to your point, the reason I was on the leaderboard very early on is I happened to be at South by Southwest. I happened to be at a couple of events of people really were looking for that content. No one else was doing it. I lucked out in one sense because of the fear of missing out. So I know the two of us, I know you jumped onto Periscope even later than I did, but we both were so. We built such an amazing community on Meerkat. I know, like you, we've talked about this before, that jumping to Periscope almost felt dirty, right? Like it almost felt like, dude, we're going to go build something else. But we also both believed, how would we know what Periscope was about if we weren't there, right? If we weren't jumping on there, we weren't trying it out. So that was something important to both of us. So I'm curious from your standpoint, what were your initial thoughts after you were building your Meerkat following, doing all the streets of New York, jumping on Periscope? Because I see lots of people still putting in here like, oh, I don't like Meerkat, I don't like Periscope. You and I both have this stance where we're using both, we're leveraging both, and we believe in both of them. And we're not going to get into that battle of one versus the other. But talk about what your initial impressions were migrating your community and maybe doing the same thing on Periscope that you were doing on Meerkat.
Sure. So I jumped on Periscope from day one.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I did the majority of my streaming on Periscope to begin with. So prior to Periscope launching, I'd maybe done 15 or so streams on Meerkat, but these were all streams that were very short in length, perhaps a minute or 2 minutes each, where I was testing things. I jumped on Periscope, and I immediately saw, hey, I can show the Empire State Building, and rather than getting 5 viewers on Meerkat, I can get 115 viewers on Periscope over 3 minutes. I was like, wow, this is awesome. If I'm going to be putting time into streaming, and I think this is the way that lots of folks are going to be thinking, is, not for the sake of just saying you have X number of viewers, but you want to feel as though you have an audience, that they're valuing the content you're putting out there, right? So I think early on, Periscope could draw lots of people in, particularly when they don't have audience built up on either of these platforms, simply because of Twitter's large global footprint, right? So the first day that Periscope launched, I did 40 Periscope streams. That morning at 8 a.m., I was at the Empire State Building observation deck because I wanted to be the first one to scope from the Empire State Building observation deck. Later on in that day, I was doing a double-decker bus tour. The point is, I was running around New York City because I wanted to see how Periscope was faring, but beyond that, I chose to use Periscope initially rather than Meerkat because I felt as though, since I didn't have any audience built up on Meerkat, it was a much better use of my time to go on Periscope, where I actually have lots of viewers who are engaging and interacting with me. So for me, what happened then was, there was one pivotal moment here, and this was the same day that Madonna released a music video on Meerkat. I happened to be in Grand Central Terminal at this time. I had less than 200 followers on Meerkat at the time. Just, again, right place, right time. When I was there, I saw a phenomenal band that was performing, phenomenal brass band. So as Madonna's stream was ending, mine was midway through, and then I think you had lots of users on Meerkat who otherwise wouldn't have been there. These were new users, right? And they all migrated over to my stream. So over the course of 45 minutes, with 200 followers on Meerkat, I had 1,400 people stop by the stream. So for me, this was kind of a light bulb moment that, you know what, I'm going to start using Meerkat now, because but before I only felt Meerkat was good for, you know, longer form, informative sort of discussions whereby which engagement and Paramount were critically important, right? So for me, the distinction I made early on was that Periscope was a much more visual vehicle. It was better suited for short form content from user experience perspective. It's spot on when it comes to being designed for the visual mobile web, right? So for me, that was this kind of pivotal point where I said, okay, I'm going to shift my streaming now to Meerkat. This is powerful. I have only 200 followers here on Meerkat. This can generate 1,400 viewers. Wow.
No, that's really interesting. All right, so you know, in the spirit of we both believe in the power of engagement, let's bring in some comments or questions from the community. I know I saw Joe Wilson on your stream. Actually, I was watching on your Meerkat, and I saw Joe Wilson TV, who's a great guy out there. He asked a question about, is it a mistake to try to use 2 platforms rather than just focusing on one? You know, and my stance on that is I don't recommend both platforms to everybody. I believe you and I both come from a unique perspective where we want to leverage both audiences, but we also want to educate people on both options. But like right now, I'm working with a couple brands. The one that's most public right now is Applebee's. Vincenzo Landino and I are doing some stuff with them next week in Milwaukee. We're doing the whole day is going to be dedicated to giving away 2 million apps at every Applebee's store, and we're gonna be live streaming at all of them. I think, Jeff, you might even be involved in that as well with us. But you know, one of the things for us was like, okay, here's the options on Meerkat, here's the options on Periscope. We let the brand decide. But what has your experience been? Because for me, a lot of the brands tell me, Brian, everybody's telling us to use Periscope, so I come out and explain to them what Periscope. But when I talk about the embed option, the call to action ability, and the fact that Meerkat pushes to Twitter, and I posted this out there, so this is nothing new for everybody. The brands look at me and say, how am I not using Meerkat over Periscope, because they have call to action and a couple other things. What has your experience been with these two? And then let's bring in some more questions from those that are asking them.
Sure. So whenever people ask me what's better, Meerkat or Periscope, it's akin to, oftentimes I'll have people in my streams and I'm showing them around New York City. They say, hey, Jeff, what's your favorite restaurant in New York City? My answer to that always is, I can't answer that for you. It depends on what sort of food you like, right? And similarly, when people ask what's better, Meerkat or Periscope, it really depends on the sort of format that they're going to be using when they stream. Are they going to be doing a Q&A? Are they going to be doing an Ask Me Anything? Format matters. And likewise, it depends on your interests when you're talking about what you want to view, what state of mind you're in at that time. So for me, what drives whether I'm using Periscope or Meerkat, either to stream or to view, are those things exactly, right? So you can't be prescriptive in answering this question. So I'm always encouraging people to use both platforms. And what I really enjoyed, Brian, was early on, there was some reporter, I think, who was kind of throwing shade at Meerkat, and you looked up how many Meerkat streams they had done, and you basically called them out for saying, hey, how can you write this piece proclaiming Meerkat to be crap when you actually haven't used the thing? And I think that happens very frequently when you have people on Meerkat who joined very early, they're loyal, they maybe spent 2 days on Periscope, and they immediately proclaim Periscope to be garbage. And the same thing happens on the Periscope side. There were people who hadn't heard of live mobile video until Periscope came about. They then did some research, realized there was another player in the space, Meerkat. They spent 2 days on Meerkat and then proclaimed Meerkat to be crap. And my take on that is these folks aren't in a position to make such strong proclamations until they've spent an equal amount of time and a substantial amount of time on both. So I always encourage everybody to use both platforms and to figure out what works best with them. So similar to your approach, I think.
No, for sure. And Mitch Jackson, who to me is one of the most innovative thought leaders in the legal space without question, and a friend of mine just put in there, you know, you also have to think about what's going to exist 12 months out and what the landscape's going to look like 12 months from now. And I think that's really important. Oh, hey, let me mute you real quick because I'm getting that feedback again. And then I'll bring you back in off mute. All right. So, but no, another thing that I actually think that is actually really critical there is what you were saying is I did call out a reporter because I reached out to the reporter and said, hey, are you using a test or dummy account to test out Meerkat? And they said, no, I'm not using a test account. I said, well, I looked up your account on Meerkat, and you've never done a live stream on Meerkat, yet you buried Meerkat. And I also had someone that is a very prolific Meerkat streamer write a post talking trash about Periscope, and I laughed because I was like, I never have seen you even engage on Periscope. So I think we need to phrase this, and this is bigger than just Meerkat versus Periscope. I believe you cannot prove that you love something by bashing something else. the way you prove that you love something is you talk about the benefits that that has. Like you said about the restaurant, I love your analogy from the restaurant. That is so spot on. It depends on the mood you're in, the type of day. If you like, like someone always tells me like, oh, do you love Ruth Chris? Ruth Chris steak is great, but I don't like the atmosphere in there. It feels very like, I would rather sit in a bar like Sweetwater, which is a big steakhouse here in Virginia, that is more of a bar type feeling, but it has just as good a steak. So I think, when we're talking about what people like and how that all goes, I think that's important. But I also think what is another thing that you do really well, Jeff, and everyone, thank you for the hearts, thank you for sharing. Jeff, you do a really great job of providing value and sharing it, but almost promoting yourself without having to promote yourself, right? You don't say like, hey, I'm Jeff Goldberg. This is, you have to, but you're like, thank you for following my stream. And we both believe, and I'm curious what your thoughts here, just to elaborate on, we would much rather have someone swipe right, swipe left, swipe up and share it, or hit the retweet button on Meerkat than we would them giving us hearts or hitting like, because we want people to share it with their audiences and bring their audiences to the stream so we can provide value for the largest amount of people. I think not enough people understand that concept, especially on Periscope. I love the Periscope community, but it will drive me crazy if I hear someone say tap for hearts 40 times in a 10-minute broadcast. I'm like, give me a break. Like that's not the value you're going to provide. I will tap for hearts when you provide value. What is your overall thoughts on that? I put you back on mute, so just make sure you unmute before you jump back on. Oh, you're still muted. Up top. Now you're good.
Cool. So I do promote myself a decent amount. And what I mean by that is I'll very frequently during the stream, because that part of your mantra, I don't know exactly the 3 terms you're using, but something about when you're speaking with somebody, you have to continually update everyone what's going on, right? What is this that you talk about here, Brian? I forget the 3. I think there are 3 prongs you have, right?
Yeah, I say maybe. Provide value, engage, recap. Provide value, engage, recap.
So I do the recap very frequently. As new viewers are coming in, I want to let them know, hey, I'm Jeff. I live in New York City. I've lived here for the past 10 years. I'm super bullish on live mobile video. I'm a big fan of it. I stream on both platforms. Here's what I stream. In case you're new to stream, please give me a follow. But I'm very vocal on Meerkat, at least, in asking people to retweet and to like. And to your point, yes, I most certainly care more about the retweets and the likes because I want to build my audience. I want to have as much reach as possible. And similarly on Periscope, I'll frequently ask people to invite their followers. But I completely agree with you. Like the hearts, there are oftentimes people on Meerkat who say, hearts are silly on Periscope, and I disagree with that. I think hearts provide value on many levels, but to your point, it can be a little bit frustrating when people are streaming simply for the sake in their stream title for asking for hearts, right? It's similar, in my opinion, to people on Meerkat who want to climb the leaderboard and keep their streams running while they're sleeping. It's absolutely silly to me. I don't understand that.
Well, and I think we both connected early on the idea that, we didn't want to be professional live streamers, or we didn't want to professional live stream our life. We wanted to provide value and live stream quality stuff, and I think that is a huge aspect here. So I'm curious. So there's a couple people on Periscope that have a couple questions. So throw up those questions. I'd be happy to ask Jeff, or I'll happy to answer as well. I have noticed, like for me, and I'm not sure where you're at, Jeff. In the last month, I've been doing more periscoping than meerkatting, but only because I felt like I needed to kind of focus a little bit more attention on there. They never even used to fill in the blank. Yeah, and I love the nonverbal cues. I love the ability for people to tap on hearts. Like if you guys are enjoying this interview, tap for hearts. That's a quality piece, right? Like, or give me an emoticon on Meerkat in Jeff's stream if you guys are liking this. Give a thumbs up. All of those things are hugely important. Like there goes the 1,000 hearts, right? Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the top of it. But, the element there is there's a difference between begging, bribing people for something that is a vanity metric versus using it to continue to provide value in a stream. And I think that's where it's at. Where is live streaming going in the future? Will it fade? And that's from Ron. Ron, I always love your thing. So, Jeff, I'll give you I put you on mute again, but Jeff, I'll give you the first one. What do you think about the future of live streaming? Where do you think it's going? And then someone also asked,
So Meerkat most certainly isn't dead. Over the past couple of weeks, they've released 2 features. I'm sure you agree, Brian, that are quite killer: the Meerkat embed, and then also the cameo. We can talk about those a bit later. But so around where do I see the future of live mobile video? I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and proclaim to know. And I think people at Meerkat and people at Periscope, it's foolish for them to also proclaim that they know where this is headed. I think that you're going to have the community kind of drive and shape a lot of the direction that kind of takes place here. There are verticals that I think live streaming is more likely to be impactful across. I know, Brian, you're a fan of how it's going to impact real estate. I'm very bullish on real estate, education, travel, tourism, music, entertainment. I think you're going to have, it's going to really change the landscape of the music world. You're going to have artists who are discovered by way of a live stream that aren't going to have to deal with any huge production companies having agents that allows them to go more direct. So, I mean, the short answer is I don't know exactly where it's headed. I'd be lying if I said I did, but I'm incredibly bullish on the space. I think that this is going to blow up, whether it happens in the next 2 months or 2 years. I want to continue to be at the front of the space, and that's why I commit so much time to it, as I'm doing here. Now, I'll throw it back to you now, Brian. Sorry, guys, I can't hear Brian here.
I hit the wrong button. My fault. That was my fault.
Okay,
That was my fault, Jeff. All right, so in my opinion, storytelling is going nowhere. The ability to storytell, the importance of storytelling, the importance of building relationships and trust. Right now, we don't trust logos, we trust people. And I think that is the future of live streaming. The way that brands can engage, the way that brands can provide immediate value, because real time is important, which we all talk about a lot, but the right time is even more important. It's too hard for the average person to have all of their social media apps, which will, and hey, and you don't have to have all the apps too. I think that's something that people are mistaking here. It's better to be great in a few places than good everywhere. But I also think that if you're trying to provide value, if you're trying to engage, you're trying to tell a story, it is important to know what apps are best for that kind of thing. So I think, I think you've written some great posts on it. I think there's lots of great blog posts out there. For me, the future of live streaming is super bright. It's not going to be a passing fad, mainly because we want to be able to look someone in their digital eyeball, trust them, engage with them, and ultimately there is no better app to do that than this technology across the board.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let me take a question here, Brian. From
Jeff.
Oh,
no, you're not. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good.
All right, cool. So let's take a question here from Wonder Why I'm Here, because it's something that I frequently get asked. I'm not sure if the same is for you, but you, in fact, you are implementing some strategies around live mobile streaming now for brands and for clients. For me, not so much. So someone has a question here. The fact that you guys are not making money from Meerkat with all this time into this app is silly to me. And so I'd like to comment there. I mean, Meerkat's job is not to. This may change over time. Meerkat and Periscope's jobs are not to provide content. Over time, they could develop an in-house network of sorts where they focus on content, but right now their sole role is to allow content providers to equip them with a platform to do so. This is not their role right now. It's not their role to be paying us. So I just wanted to mention that, and if you have any follow-up thoughts there, Brian.
So no, I love that. It's a great question. I get that question a lot, actually, from the standpoint of, how do we monetize? And here's my point. And I've used this analogy before. Social media is the new golf course. And what I mean by that is my dad taught me golf because business was done on the golf course. And my dad never monetized his golf game, right? What my dad did is he built relationships, he told stories, he became a trusting resource in what he was doing with the people he was playing golf with. And that is no different than these apps. I don't need to hard sell you on something. Ultimately, I don't need to use this to strictly monetize my time. But what I do need to do is I need to build relationships, bring my audience to some kind of earned or owned media, tell my story. I can tell you I've worked with 3 different people that are on Periscope that have pulled in 6 figures worth of client work, and they never sold one thing on their live scope. What they did is said, hey, this is what I'm about. This is who I am. This is what I've done. They tell their story, and then that person says, I want to work with you. So anybody who thinks that we're wasting our time doesn't understand the power of social and relationships, because ultimately people are emailing me on a regular basis saying, Brian, how can I buy services from you? And that to me is ROI on every minute that I spend on these platforms.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. As I mentioned earlier, for me, I've in fact turned business down, some of which originated from Meerkat, because I want to be in a position where I can spend a lot of my time right now around live mobile video streaming. You know, I'm playing the long game here. Rather than make a few $1,000s from a project, you know, I'm looking for the longer. I'm looking out for the longer run here. Kind of to your point about your father and playing golf and networking. I mean, at this point, it's quite wild. But I've met in real life probably upwards of 150, close to 200 people in real life. I'm not talking about simply a FaceTime, a Skype, a Google Hangout. In real life, I've met close to 150 or 200 people from which the original connection came by way of one of these live mobile streaming apps. And to me, that's phenomenal, right? Because if you think of technology, typically it drives people away from one another. You go to a restaurant with colleagues for lunch, everyone's on their phone, checking their email, using an app, right? But I'm a big fan of technology that brings people closer together, and Meerkat and Periscope have done exactly that for me.
No, I agree. And for me, and I have some people that are bringing in here, they're asking about brands that we think are doing great. I know Stephen Cogliano, Stephen put out their Saint Germain drinks. I thought that was a genius campaign that they did. I loved how Wimbledon is using it. I love how, you know, how Twitter ads is using Periscope today to, I know, Jeff, I think you tuned in that same one where they're doing it from a live event. I've been inspired by Mashable. I started reading The Verge magazine more now than I ever have before, all because of how The Verge uses Periscope. How crazy is that? I'm reading a digital online magazine because of someone's audio live streaming. And what they do, and I'll explain this real quick for those that are tuning in. So thank you for the hearts. Thank you for restreaming. What we're going to do in a couple minutes, we're actually going to switch in about 15 minutes, and I'm going to have Jeff jump on to Periscope on his account, and I'll jump on to Meerkat. And what we'll do there is we'll allow you guys to follow, make sure you're following Jeff so we can connect everybody. But what I think that's really cool on this is that The Verge started giving whoever their bloggers are that are writing these data-backed blogs, they give them access to their account. Yes, I'm using two devices, iPhone and an iPad, but they give access to their account, and the blogger tells the story, shares where they got their data from, what they've done, and all of a sudden when I'm reading that blogger's post, I can hear their voice. I have more respect for them as an author, as a writer. How powerful is that? And to me, that is just one of the many examples of someone that you would say, okay, yeah, they're a media company. Of course they're going to be great at it. No, they didn't just show me their you know, Huffington Post Live is doing it really good, right? They show behind the scenes when they're going live on their show, but giving access to their blogger to where now I have a better relationship with bloggers who are doing it in the written form, all thanks to live streaming, to me is awesome. And I know Mike Baltus jumped in here and talked about the Nomadcast app as well, like being able to put it in the Facebook. I think we're only at the precipice for how they're going to integrate with other apps as well. So I don't know, you have some comments or questions coming in on your side as well?
Yeah, so I mean, the point you're bringing up here about the blogger, and when you read their stuff moving forward, you feel as though you have a better relationship with them, right? So this is something that, you know, with Meerkat's recent release of the Cameo feature, Brian, there are a large number of people who watch my. You're making me hungry, by the way. There are a large number of people who watch my streams, but they don't stream very much themselves, right? So what's pretty cool over the past few days now is I've cameoed a number of them. Again, these are people who are more so viewers than streamers. I've cameoed a number of them into my stream, and although it's one thing to see a picture of them in the avatar, right? It brings a whole different level of engagement when I've seen them, even if just for a minute, right? So for those who don't know, Meerkat is a feature which will allow viewers of the stream to take over the stream for up to a minute. Pretty fantastic stuff, if you ask me. So the point I'm making here is similar to what you were talking about, Brian, with the blogger. Moving forward, when I see that same person, when I see that avatar in my streams, you know, I've heard a voice. I've seen their face beyond a static picture, right? It equips me to feel as though I actually know them a bit better, and I think that really can allow for a much stronger community on Meerkat. That sort of cameo feature, it's absolutely fantastic.
So I've gone on record saying my #1 feature request for both of these apps right now is for me to have a way to reward or give a badge or promote the engagers. Because without the commenters, without the people that are commenting right now, without you guys doing that element of it, these apps are useless. These are no different than Ustream, Justin TV, all the stuff that's already existed. And to me, being able to reward and be able to connect, because I can honestly say some people who have been in my stream, who have been following me on Meerkat or on Twitter for 2 years, the way that they engage with me in live streaming, much stronger relationship through the comments on the live stream than anything we've ever done on Twitter in 140 characters. And that's coming from someone who is openly admits Twitter changed my life for the better in multiple ways. So for me, the Cameo is just an amazing step. And for those that are on Periscope, this is why I believe every Periscoper should cheer for Meerkat. And every Meerkatter should cheer for Periscope, because the innovation that's happening on Meerkat and the scalability that's happening on Periscope is great for the live streaming community, and it's going to force Periscope to adopt and add features that maybe they weren't going to do ahead of time. And I use this analogy all the time. If Android did not exist, we would just be getting the copy and paste feature of iPhone like this year instead of 5 years ago, because Apple would have no reason to innovate at the speed that they had to if it wasn't for Android. And that's the same thing that's happening with here. They need a repeat button so you don't have to type yourself. No, I agree. And the disappearing comments is a whole different one. But actually, Jeff, I guess another point on that, it's real-time mobile engagement. Yes. And that is the element here. It's reading, like what Mitch Jackson said. It's competition, brings faster innovation, which is better for all of us. So for everybody on Periscope, I would love to people go, oh my God, I don't want to jump to Meerkat, but I love the Cameo feature. I wish we had that on Periscope. That is the kind of stuff that we want, not screw Meerkat, or if those are Meerkat, I don't want to deal with the big elephant that Periscope's wasting my time. That does nothing good for us as a live streaming community. For us to really help both of these apps innovate and push forward, I'll give a shout out to CatchCats. CatchCats now actually allows you to capture both Meerkat and Periscope streams into one landing page. They just released and updated it. I sent out screenshots today. And to me, it's all about, hey, I want my audience to find value no matter where they're able to do it. And I think it's key. It's essential for people to understand the commenters are important, and it's building those relationships. And you're right, Cameo is awesome. I cameoed Stephen Cogliano into my one of my streams last week, and I had so many people said, oh my God, that's what Stephen looks like? I've been friends with Stephen online for 5 years. All that was bringing Stephen into my feed for 60 seconds and him providing value and engaging with my audience. And for me, there's no bigger shout out, no bigger way for me to give props to the people that are always commenting. I have such an amazing commenting group. We have David Pepper in there. We have I know you have the same way. It's almost like a family, right? And we use that hashtag Meer family, and there's Periscope family. But it's whenever, like Jilly Sue, I'm not sure if Jilly Sue is on here right now, but Jilly Sue, she's my Scope couch buddy, because during the evenings at night when I'm laying in bed and I'm not live streaming myself, the two of us jump into 5 or 6 of the same streams, engage, and have amazing conversations. And to me, that is why these apps are a game changer. What do you think, Jeff? Oh, I got you on mute still. Damn Google Hangout. Oh, you're still muted.
Cool. That was a lot that you just said there, so I don't quite know where to start. I guess rather than jumping back into it, because that was a whole lot, let's maybe throw it to the viewers and take some comments, questions. Is that cool, Brian?
Yeah, so Mike Baltus asked, would you be willing to pay to play live stream?
So would I be willing to pay to use, Meerkat and to use Periscope?
Well, I think it's to advertise or be featured, kind of like with Facebook organic reach has gone away. Would you be willing to pay?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think right now, for example, if you look at the power Periscope has when a user, for example, is a suggested person to follow, or if they have a stream that's highlighted, the growth that person can see, it's absolutely insane. There's one guy in Japan, for example, Kaijo is his handle. After having his streams promoted, he grew from having like a few hundred followers in a few days to having 140,000 followers. That's insane. So yeah, I mean, I think the same way that Twitter has an ad model where people can, one of the ways that you can purchase ads on Twitter is you can bid per follower. I think over time maybe Periscope evolves such that you also can bid per follower. It's very powerful real estate to occupy, and frankly, I think yes, I would be willing to spend for that at some point. How about you, Brian?
Oh, hold on one sec. All right. I couldn't agree more. And actually, I've been talking about it for a while. If Periscope wants to make me pay a monthly subscription fee to get data and analytics out of the app, sign me up today. I'd be willing to do that. I also love the idea of a lower third. Like, let me pay a little bit more money so that I can put my own handle and my own information or my own byline or even my own brands that, I have people that sponsor Google Hangouts, and Google Hangouts are very similar in the sense of what we're doing in live streaming, that I want to monetize without polluting people. And I love ads. I can't wait till ads get inside of Instagram, because I think quality ads are amazing because it provides value, it personalizes it, it does some great things for us. But sadly, when people look at ads, they think of it the old school way where it's an ad that doesn't get the platform. And I think Snapchat, and I don't know if anybody, those that are watching there on Snapchat, the ads on Snapchat are the exact example of what every ad, the future of ads are going to mirror what Snapchat does. There's a huge high price point. I think it's $800,000 to even do an ad on Snapchat, but they help them create amazing quality. Therefore, it doesn't feel like an ad. It actually feels like amazing content. And I think that is what Periscope and Meerkat will focus on. I think monetization, such things as data, I think doing it as a lower third, I think maybe even a call to action. Like, the call to action in Meerkat is pretty awesome. Those that are on Periscope that don't understand that, when you end a broadcast on Meerkat, the streamer has the ability to add one link and one customized text that allows those that are watching to click a button and take them to a piece of owned media. I think Periscope should do that, and I'd be okay paying to have that ability, even if it was paying $1 or $2 per live stream, or maybe I paid for a subscription model, because ultimately, no matter what free app you're using today, you're paying with your data. If the app is free, you're paying with your data. And with that in mind, I'm okay with ads and I'm okay with some of the monetization side. But at the end of at the same time, people that bitch about that can't be bitching about the app using our data at the same time you're bitching about you don't want to pay for it, because nothing's free. Someone has to make money in this game. I mean, the data that Twitter is getting from the user base of Periscope, in my opinion, is amazing, because now they understand who's designing what works, what doesn't work, what video doesn't. So to me, I think that's what it's all about. So you have some stuff coming on your side as well, Jeff?
Let me just kind of follow up to your point, and then we'll jump into this here. So I completely agree with you. I mean, I'd be willing to pay for some analytics layer with regards to my Periscope viewers, and especially brands, right? So if brands with huge presences across other platforms jump onto Meerkat, they're getting thousands of viewers in their streams. They want to know things such as, where are their viewers located? They want to know demographic information. So effectively, you look at Twitter analytics. I would envision it can't be that far off until you have something similar for Periscope analytics, right? At the current form, what I like about Periscope versus Meerkat, on Periscope, I can see a subset of the viewers who have seen my streams live and replayed them. I can't see that full list. At the bottom, for example, it'll say plus 50 or whatever the case may be. I would love to be able to see all of them. In fact, earlier on with Periscope, I could see all of them. The point being, this is information that brands can then leverage for other marketing efforts, and it's really important for them to have. So I would presume that can't be very far off until we see something where Periscope is being wrapped into Twitter analytics. Around kind of ads and monetization, I couldn't agree with you more. So with Meerkat's Cameo feature, some have spoken to, and I've seen a number of comments here in my Meerkat stream, basically saying that this is going to be a way for Meerkat to get into the advertising game. They could take, it's 60 seconds as opposed to 30 seconds, which you typically see on YouTube pre-roll ads, but it's easy enough. You don't have to fill that full 60 seconds. There could be a play, absolutely, where cameos are very advertising focused. That being said, I kind of don't want that to happen. What I think is more meaningful is when brands are providing quality content, and that is their ads. So I think MasterCard, we were talking earlier about some brands who are leveraging live mobile streaming very well. I think MasterCard is a great example. Greg Weiss over at MasterCard does a fantastic job. And he also is another person that I became closer with as a result of these apps. I've been following him on Twitter for a number of years, but I've not met him in person a number of times, and it's fantastic. The point I'm making is what MasterCard has done in the past is, one example is they went over to Yankee Stadium, were on the field during batting practice, and we're interviewing players, right? This is content that folks who love the Yankees aren't going to be able to see otherwise. This is really great for MasterCard. They're providing value, and those who are consuming it, typically people hate ads. They hate ads, right? So during the 30-second cameos, they may turn people away from Meerkat. But if folks are truly deriving value from content that's being provided by brands like MasterCard is doing, they shouldn't have a problem hearing every 10, 15 minutes that this segment has been brought to you by MasterCard. So I think that's the better way to go about kind of advertising.
Agree.
So let's see. Let me take some comments here.
Thank you guys on Periscope and Meerkat for sharing it and engaging with us. We hope you guys are finding value.
So Rob, Mr. Funky Fairy, says just listening and taking notes. Rob's another fantastic streamer over at the Funky Fairy. So I encourage everybody on Periscope and on Meerkat to follow the Funky Fairy.
He's one of my favorite brands across the board.
Let's see. Do you have any questions there, Brian? I'm just trying to catch up here. In the meantime, let me know if you have any questions here.
All right. So Ron says this is awesome stuff.
Awesome. So Jared Kashkin here. So Jared's somebody that I connected with through Periscope, in fact. And I'm working on getting him to use Meerkat as well because Jared's a pianist, very talented pianist. So those are the folks who are on Meerkat. They probably see John K. Chin play very frequently. I think John was one of the earlier musicians to jump on there, and he's doing a fantastic job. And I'm trying to convince Jared to do that, and I think he's starting to do some more streaming there. But the point is, this is Jared Kashkin, by the way, Jarodkashkin. He says, Meerkat needs some way to show appreciation in real time akin to the heart system. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Brian.
Sure. So I think that's what the emojis are for, right? If you're using the emojis, if you're on Meerkat, if you click the emoji button down by the comment side and you hit your emoji, it rotates that picture above at the top. So right now, if everybody is enjoying the stream on Jeff Goldberg's, which I'm watching here, and those that are watching can see on Periscope, I'm holding it up right now. But like so on Periscope, yes, realtors, Rachel, I can give realtors are my favorite example of live streaming. I'll give that example in a second. So if you tap the hearts, that's showing the nonverbal, hey, we like your content on Periscope. On Meerkat, if you use the emoji, so everybody that's watching now, click the emoji icon and use an emoji. Those emojis are saying, hey, thumbs up, smiley face. That is the same kind of nonverbal cues. But to your point on the artists, here's the thing. We're living in a world right now, in my opinion, and I just saw Bad Beef get in there. What's up, Bad Beef? I'm another great Meerkat streamer out there who does his live radio show and provides some great value. One of the things for me is we're living in an age, and I made this comment, I am so happy to live now, and I'm glad I was not born 20 years earlier because we have the ability to be our own producer, our own storyteller, our own salesperson, our own marketer, and we have a chance to tell our story with the world. And we're not limited to only our small town, and nobody outside of us knows, or we have no idea what everybody else is doing around the world. I mean, Jeff, you and I connected when I lived in Arizona. We became friends and engaging, and it was all because of social media. I talked about Ted Rubin. I read his book. I tweeted at him 4.5 years ago. We've now built up a friendship. He was a mentor, became a leader. We started working together. Now my kids call him Uncle Ted. Right? That's ROI of a tweet, ROI of engagement and providing value. And I think if you're an artist today and your shit doesn't suck, and sorry for being, if you suck offline and if what you're producing sucks, social media and digital won't help. Maybe it'll be okay at the beginning. But if you're really great at it, social allows you to scale. Here's a question. But I have a question. If you have a lot of hearts from your Periscope, get featured on Periscope. So on Periscope, they have something that is the most hearted, or I can't remember the exact name of it. I've never been on there, but I am proof. I am living proof. I am speaking on the keynote stage at the Periscope Summit, and I have less than 1 million hearts. And I was asked to do that. I didn't submit anything. So Periscope reached the Periscope committee. Ryan and Kathy reached out to me to the keynote on that because they said I was providing valuable content. So for me, I think it's less about how many hearts someone has, and it's more about how many times do people share that person's broadcast. Like Robert Stern, I think Robert Stern was in here. Robert Stern does an amazing job of engaging. Oh, look at that, Jeff. So I'm running beta, fear of missing out. I'm running beta version of iOS 9, and my Periscope, my whole iPhone just crashed. So we just lost the Periscope audience. So maybe it's a perfect time, Jeff, for you to jump on yours, and then I'll share with my followers your broadcast, and I'll jump on Meerkat. Oh, you're on mute. Jeff, you're still on mute.
Okay, back. Sorry, man. I was just letting everybody know to follow you over on Meerkat once you get this started, and I'm going to now go on Periscope and start my stream here.
Yeah, and I'm going to share on Periscope with my community. Hey, everybody, I'm Meerkat. I just got Meerkat
Thanks,
up.
man.
Gotta love fear of missing out. Me testing a beta operator.
How'd you get on the Periscope beta, by the way?
No, not Periscope beta, iOS beta.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I misheard you.
No worries.
Give me 1 second so I can put the stream title in here.
All right, Meerkat audience is coming in. Thank you, guys. First time follower. Oh gosh, first time follower. It's Rob. Barry. I love you, Rob.
Sorry, I typed slowly here, Brian.
No worries.
Cool. So I'm live here now on Periscope.
Yep, I see it now. I'm gonna share it
here. I see you've just joined. Welcome, my social fans.
All right, so they said, Gigi just said she's checking out Meerkat for the first time. My 7-year-old asked, "Is this on right now?" Oh, that's awesome, Jenny. That's so cool.
Nice.
All right, let me share this.
Yeah, I get that question sometimes too during the streams. People say, "Is this live? Can you just, in fact, call out my child's name?" Because they don't believe me this is live. I've seen that a number of times.
Yeah, I have too.
So one thing I think that's interesting to talk about is, let's talk a little bit more about Periscope hearts, Brian. So, quite often I've seen Meerkat users be very dismissive, saying, I don't need to get on Periscope. Why do I need to have people give me hearts? Hearts are useless. Hearts don't make any sense. But I couldn't disagree more. I think what hearts allow, we're not seeing it currently, but I think what hearts allow Periscope/Twitter to do is, let's think of the Super Bowl, for example. Oftentimes, Twitter will release a blog post highlighting the key moments from the Super Bowl when you're looking at tweets per second, right? And they'll say, hey, the density of tweets here was this. And you can see peaks throughout the whole Super Bowl game, right? So similarly, let's think about a live stream on Periscope that's an hour and a half in length. Time's valuable. I love your streams, Brian, but I can't always watch an hour and a half of your streams, and vice versa, right? I would love to, on Periscope, for example, there's no feature currently to fast forward and rewind replays, but down the road, I would envision that that's absolutely going to be a feature. And what Periscope can then look at is they can highlight key moments based on the density of hearts. They may have to put some parameters around limiting it to hearts limit it to 10 hearts per person per 15 seconds, or whatever the case may be. But it would be absolutely fantastic to be able to fast forward and rewind and just check out key moments on Periscope. So that's where I see a lot of the value in hearts is around the data collection.
Well, I couldn't agree more, Jeff, and no surprise the two of us kind of think alike on that. To me, understanding what is quality. Here's the deal. People ask me all the time, Brian, you try so many different things of types of content, and Jeff, you do the same thing. You stream it with only the back of your camera walking up and down the street. Then you'll do it where you can see you in it, and one of my favorite moments in all of the live streaming is all because of you. I got to see the David Letterman sign come down at 1 a.m. in the morning, my time. You're standing out there, and you guys, you and Ron Waxman were both there together, one on Meerkat, one on Periscope, which is, I still use it in my keynote. It's one of my favorite moments of all live streaming. But I think it's also about understanding what your audience wants. Right now, people say, Brian, what content should I stream? Well, how the hell would I know that if I don't know what your audience wants? And I think if you provide value and you understand what your audience wants, I believe you can do some amazing things. But unfortunately, some people don't see that and don't look at it and say, hey, how can I provide the most value? They just want like some easy button, and I don't think that easy button exists. And I think, to your point, the hearts, I see a whole bunch of hearts coming on your screen right now. Like, people, when you're liking what's going on, tap the screen. It just makes sense. But and on Meerkat, I say, if you're on Meerkat and you're liking what you're doing, hit the emoji button, right? Or hit one emoji. So hit the comments and type in one single emoji. I forget, because I'm using Meerkat beta, I forget what exists and what doesn't. But hit the emoji button, hit one emoji in the comments, and it doesn't get posted to Twitter. It'll uncheck the Twitter one, and it'll change your icon across the top. And that's amazing nonverbal cues to let the streamer know that what you have is quality. Because just like a keynote speaker at the front of a stage, if they don't realize that their audience all of a sudden is laying back in their chair, or their audience is start twiddling with their fingers, like that is verbal information that says people are no longer interested. You better change your game or get the hell off your scope. And I think that's how you should use the hearts. And I agree with you, Jeff. Right now, the hearts aren't being used because they were gamified the wrong way, much like a clout score or things like that. But I think if people use the hearts like a fist pump, like, yes, keep giving me more, keep giving me more, that's what I want. I believe the hearts are an awesome way of nonverbal cues and nonverbal engagement for communities. Oh, and I see them piggy emojis and some water emojis. I think I still have you muted, Jeff.
All right, cool. Sorry, Brian.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. So another thing around hearts is, so that first day I jumped on Periscope and I went to the Empire State Building observation deck. I streamed both on Meerkat and on Periscope. And on Meerkat, I mean, first off, the connection up there is just really difficult, right? So continually, I'm asking the folks on Meerkat, is the audio still there? Is the video still there? And that can become cumbersome. I don't like to have to do that all the time. Whereas on Periscope, if the viewers are constantly tapping, I know there's a connection. I know they can see and hear what I'm sharing. So that's another utility kind of around hearts, I would say, is that continual feedback.
So someone actually just talked about you can follow Friday or follow for follow and rewind on Periscope, but you can't on. I love catch cats. I know we kind of might even disagree a little bit on how I don't think every broadcast should be captured or uploaded to YouTube. I don't think every broadcast is evergreen. But someone made the comment earlier, Jeff, about your content being extremely evergreen and of high quality. I mean, you've gone to you've gone to Times Square more, like you said, now than you have in 10 years. I think some of those broadcasts are so amazing and provide so much value that if a travel agency wanted to reach out to you and say, hey, Jeff, let me capture your next time there, and I'll pay you to have this running on my website, I think that's a pretty exciting game changer if they're willing to do that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic as well. The problem is right now, and I've given this feedback to Meerkat, right now that travel agency doesn't need to feed me, to pay me. They can just take my stream and embed it on their site, and I think that's flawed. I mean, as keen as I am around Meerkat's embed feature, so catching some of the Periscope folks up, what Meerkat allows you to do is your site, you can grab the stream and embed it on your site. If that user is not currently live, I think it'll default back to whatever the stream title of their last one was. But that's really powerful stuff. If you think about, let's talk about ESPN. Maybe before this was a feature, ESPN perhaps could be less likely to provide their own original content because ultimately ESPN wants to keep eyeballs on their site. They want to keep people on their site. They want to have more eyeballs on their site, and they want to keep those eyeballs on their site for longer. They're monetizing via ads, right? Why is ESPN going to come up with original, high-value content if they're driving it over to Meerkat, right, or to Periscope? Now, however, hey, you can embed this Meerkat stream, which is fantastic. People go to ESPN.com, they see a Meerkat embed. This creates awareness not just for Meerkat, but for live mobile video streaming as a whole. It's a great move to kind of just bring this to the mainstream, right? However, ESPN, in my opinion, will be less likely to put out this content if a competing publication, if CNN Sports or another sports publication can grab that stream. Why the hell is ESPN going to do that, right?
No, I couldn't agree more. And all right. Actually, so someone made a comment, and I think this is something I'd be interested in. I actually completely disagree. Someone put in there, and I can't remember who said it, but I'm gonna feel free to So they said that the disappearing comments on Periscope is an insult to the commenters, and I'm one that I don't like that they disappear. I like that I have the ability to scroll comments on Meerkat. I think scrolling comments is a must on Periscope. But, and Jeff, I'll be curious to hear what your feedback is on this. The amount of people that comment and the amount of comments and engagement I get on Periscope because the questions are disappearing and people feel that they are not stuck with that comment being posted to Twitter or living on forever. I get way more comments on Periscope than I do on Meerkat as an overall. But I love that my Meerkat comments get pushed to Twitter because I can then continue the conversations down the road. So what is your experience? Do you get more comments do you see on Periscope than Meerkat? I know for me, I get drastically more comments and engagement on Periscope than I do on Meerkat. But
yeah, so I think absolutely there's more commenting taking place on Periscope rather. You mentioned more engagement on Periscope. I would say that that's probably true, but there's deeper engagement on Meerkat, and it's simply because of a product decision, right? How the comments are being handled. So early on, the reason I stopped using Periscope, so I used Periscope for the 2 weeks after it was released. I used this thing a lot. I think I was one of the first people to crack 100,000 hearts. When I was at 100,000 hearts to get on the most loved, you were asking about what it's called earlier. It's most loved. So at the time when I cracked 100,000 hearts on Periscope, to be at the bottom of the most loved list, you only needed 150,000 hearts. So I was really close. Had I continued on Periscope with that same momentum, who knows where I'd be now. But I shifted over to Meerkat for a number of reasons, and now I'm using both apps a bit more. But I think absolutely there's more comments that takes place on Periscope. I don't necessarily think that disappearing comments is always a bad thing. It forces the streamer to stay succinct, to be on point, not to go off on tangents. But there are other times in which, you know, I want to be able to provide a longer answer, a longer response, right? So, you know, I kind of go back and forth there. I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is really annoying to me, but other times I'm like, this is great. This is forcing me to stay on focus and to be succinct here. Speaking about Periscope comments.
No, I agree, and just to educate people on both sides, because that's kind of what we're all about. You know, watching the replays is important. I see Robert Stern just posted on yours about watching the replays, but I love that I get to engage and continue the conversations on Twitter. But just to educate everybody, this is a major misconception, especially for Periscope. You do not, every comment on Meerkat does not have to be pushed to Twitter. The commenter gets the decision to toggle on or toggle off that button. But also, when someone is commenting and it's pushed to Twitter, your entire Twitter feed does not see the comment. Let me repeat that. If you are commenting on my comment, if you are commenting right now to Brian on my feed and you're pushing it to Twitter, not every single one of your followers sees that comment. The only people that see it in their live news feed are people that are following both you, the person that's commenting, and me, the streamer, because it's an @ mention at me. Therefore, it is not polluting everybody's feed by having all the comments. I think people kind of misunderstood that. So for me, I think the ability to have the option, I would love Periscope to give people the option to either post their comments to Twitter or not post their comments to Twitter. Let's let the community, let's let them make the decision. Let's not make the decision for them. I think it should be able to have the option, but I also think the disappearing comments do make it kind of feel kind of like that Snapchat where people can provide ultimate, you know, different value. And I see Marsha Collier just jumped in there, and that's another one. Catch my tweet starts a conversation. Yes, and you know. And you can also, if you're in Periscope now, you can swipe to the left and say share to Twitter, and then you can comment with the broadcaster's Twitter handle in there, and it gets posted to Twitter as well. But that's a hack. I think we should empower the commenters, because without the commenters, without the community, these tools are not as powerful as they are. And that's kind of my little rant, Jeff. So I'll give it back over to you.
Cool. So Jared says comments disappearing emphasizes the notion that time is valuable, and I like that there. I like that thought. Replays are becoming increasingly important, and I couldn't agree more, particularly if, for example, you're providing high-value content and Periscope decides to feature it, there could be a stream in which on the live view you only had a few hundred viewers. You then get featured. You're going to see several thousands of replays when it comes to, you know, the fact that you can actually have that replay option on Periscope. So for me as well, you know, I'm a big data guy, so I track every data point. In the very beginning, I would do the same stream on Meerkat, same stream on Periscope for the same amount of time on 2 devices. I have a spreadsheet where I would track everything, the number of viewers, the number of times it was shared, et cetera, et cetera. And you know, the replays are critically important. I also track, after most streams, how many followers I gained. And because of the latent viewers, during my streams on Periscope, I tend to say to folks what I'm about, what I stream, and I grow my audience because of the replays, and that's fantastic. But that being said, so Robert says metrics of retention are skewed, but replays have more traction. So as valuable as replays are, you know, it's the same thing as viewing something on YouTube, more or less, if you can't actually actively participate, engage, and interact, right? So Meerkat and Ben Rubin speaks largely about, you know, participatory media, and the same thing holds true for Periscope. There's so much value in being in this stream real time. I can now Brian and I can address Robert's points about replays being important, whereas if Robert were to actually watch the replay, he can't make a comment, he can't have us talk about something, he can't ask a question, right? So although replays are most certainly important, you know, it's no different perhaps than YouTube if you can't actively, what to me is appealing about live mobile video streaming is the real-time interaction and engagement. Live mobile video in and of itself, it's a very vanilla product and it's been around for a long time.
Spot on, man. I couldn't agree more. For me, I think that's actually extremely important, especially in the sense that, when we're talking about this, I think the replays are important because I like that. But you know what I really love, and I really love the ability that I love the fact that the replays exist for 24 hours because I can promote them, and that fear of missing out. Somebody, and I use this example all the time. If someone sends me a blog post and says, Brian, read this blog post, you know what I normally do? I add it to my pocket and I read it over the weekend. But if someone tells me, hey, Brian, this live video is only going to be available for 9 more hours, you better watch it now. What do I go do? I go watch it now. And I think that's an important element.
Brian, check your Meerkat stream. Is your Meerkat stream still going? I think it may have.
It's back up. It's back up. It died.
Oh, it's okay, cool. Excellent. No, I was just telling me it was down. Sorry to cut you off there, man. I just wanted to make sure
you're good.
Your stream wasn't down.
I appreciate it. It's back up now. Yeah, it's back up. Thankfully, I have it back up on the stream there.
Fantastic.
Yes, fear of missing out helps big time, I think, in driving that engagement because people know that it's going to disappear over time. Oh, here you go.
Any other questions over there?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on data plans and backup batteries? Any recommendations?
Yeah, I'll speak to this real quick here. So, and I've mentioned this in a number of my streams. For me, I find it to be interesting that, after Meerkat and Periscope hit the market, there's a lot of rage these days around live mobile video streaming, right? Yet the vast majority of streams we see on Meerkat and Periscope, although they're taking place from people on their mobile devices, they're from people when they're stationary, when they're in their homes, when they're in their office, when they're at a restaurant, a lounge, a bar, somewhere where there's a Wi-Fi connection, right? And the two main limiting factors there is exactly what the person asked about, unlimited data plans and also having battery. These things drain the battery, right? So for me, I use this right here. I use this Mophie XL. It's 12,000 mAh capacity. So what that means is I use the iPhone 6 Plus and I can get roughly 4 charges. So Brian has a Mophie as well. I can get roughly 4 charges from my iPhone using this device, right? But also on the unlimited data plan, I'm fortunate that I have unlimited data with Sprint, so I can roam around New York City. But until we get to the point where there's more awareness around these, and also when people have more unlimited data, right? When that becomes more commonplace, I suppose, it most certainly hinders the ability for live mobile streaming to, in fact, be mobile.
And I'll share something real quick. I have something that here you can see it. It's in a box. No one can see the name on the box because I'm not allowed to show you that yet. But I will tell you next week I will be promoting something on both live streaming. This is a new product that just got sent to me that I'm on retainer not to say anything yet. But there is a couple new products. I am like you, Jeff. Jeff is unlimited on Sprint. I'm unlimited on AT&T, unlimited data. And Jeff, you brought up a great point. I think, and funny enough for me, a lot of times Wi-Fi actually causes me more issues than using my LTE. If I'm in a strong LTE, I'll actually stay on LTE. If I'm not in the city and there's a strong LTE connection, LTE is actually better for live streaming than your standard Wi-Fi would be. But yeah, I love my Mophies. I use Mophie battery packs. I've also, the tripods are important. Audio is extremely important. Anyone who's watched a couple of my broadcasts knows that, for me, I have a couple lavalier mics from Rode that I love their lavalier mics that they have. I think we're all going to improve, but that's a good point, Jeff. I'm actually surprised there hasn't been any more innovation there. And I will give a shout out to the Malia. The Malia is both in Meerkat and Periscope right now, and she is one of the nicest, sweetest, best streamers in my opinion. She has hit the consistency mark out of this world. Malia, guys, make sure that you guys are following Malia on both platforms. She is awesome. One of her favorite ones, she was a sideline reporter with a sideline photographer at a soccer game. I ended up trying to find the soccer broadcast to watch it because I loved her commentary and insights. She's done an amazing job of just providing value. So Malia, make sure you comment on both Meerkat and Periscope. And here's something, Jeff, that I want to get into, and I want to give some love to my friend, our friend, Neve. Neve from Meerkat it jumped into the stream. And I will challenge anyone that says any different, but part of the reason that I love wearing my Meerkat shirt and I love talking about Meerkat is because Meerkat cares. And my social philosophy is show you care. but Meerkat engages. Yes, they might have some glitches. Yes, they might have some startup issues. Yes, Jeff and I probably have been frustrated. We've probably sent them more questions and more frustration than they've ever wanted to get. But it's the fact that they engage us. We both are using, we've had the option to use beta. We've had the option to provide them input. And Periscope hasn't reached out to me. I don't know if they reached out to you, Jeff. And I know they've reached out to Alex Pettit, but that's about it from the people that I communicate with. But part of the reason that I love Meerkat, and a reason I've kind of talked about, I think it's important for both Periscope and Meerkat that Meerkat exists, is Meerkat makes us, the power users, feel part of the community. And that's why I'm always willing to give feedback. I'm always willing to do stuff. And you know what's really cool? I reached out and said, hey guys, the day that the Cameo feature was coming out, I'm saying, hey, I'm working with Applebee's. Would you guys mind if I cameoed in to the Meerkat account? They were super excited about that. When I reached out to Periscope, you know what I heard? Crickets. Crickets. I heard nothing. They didn't care. They could care less that I was doing that. And to me, that is a huge part, because the future of business, in my opinion, is community, and Meerkat has crushed that. So, Jeff, I'll let you kind of jump on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. And look, a part of this is because Periscope is part of the Twitter family, and they don't have the luxury, I suppose, to be able to reach out to everyone individually. As you said, they may have been in touch with some of the, the power influencers, whatever you want to call them. But Meerkat's community, and Neve in particular, has done a fantastic job. So I've known Neve actually, in fact, before he was a Meerkat employee. And, I just love the work he's doing there on the community side. He's really busting his butt to make sure that their community is heard. And I totally agree with you. I mean, if I had an issue that I was discussing during one of my streams, for example, on Meerkat, after the stream, Ben Rubin gives me a call and says, hey, Jeff, let's talk this through. I'm not getting that sort of love from Periscope. I mean, obviously I have a much bigger audience on Meerkat than Periscope, but I love the fact that Meerkat is listening to the community. I love the fact that a number of Meerkat employees, Jeff Needles, Neve, Jeff Castillo, Ben, Ryan Cooley, they all stream a lot themselves. What better way to understand the community and to interact and engage with them than to stream yourself, right? I don't see Periscope doing that. I truly don't. And, frankly, it's not going to be Periscope and Meerkat's team in isolation that are going to dictate the direction of these products. It's going to be driven by the community. And the fact that Meerkat seems to be listening to the community much more than Periscope, that's interesting to me.
I couldn't agree more. And to me, I think it's a major mistake from Periscope. I think Periscope's missing an opportunity to engage and empower their community. I think, kudos to Meerkat. And, and this is Goliath. It's someone talked about it being, Pied Piper versus Hooli. Right, you have the Pied Piper who's willing to fail and catch their incubator house on fire. You have them that are willing to add features into their beta that crashes the beta nonstop. But they also are willing to innovate and fail fast because they're that in touch with the community that they're going to patch and release so quickly. Where you also have Periscope, where I give kudos to Periscope for focusing on a broader mission. And the Twitter ads team was using it today. I've said numerous times, Periscope missed out when Dick Costello resigned from CEO. He should have grabbed a Periscope account and said, I'm sharing this news with the world, because part of the conversation would have been about how awesome is this of them using this new technology to deliver this message and engage with the audience. Instead, they sent out a PDF that was tweeted out that was a stupid press release, like old school. So, for me, I'm super impressed with that side. And it's kind of funny because as that happened, Jeff, my Meerkat on my iPad app just crashed. And I'm not running beta or a beta iOS on there, so I'm not sure what's going on with the Meerkat app on that side. But yeah, I'll let you engage and I'll fire this back up.
Sure, no problem, man. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk about community a bit more. So let me do this real quick. I think Brian, you're still on the stream, but let me show you guys something that I plotted, which looks at my streams over time, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So what we're looking at here is this is the number of streams per day. What you see in orange, that is Periscope, and what you see in blue, that is Meerkat. So this is the day Periscope launched. I did close to 40 streams the day Periscope launched. As I mentioned in the very beginning, I was streaming much more heavily on Periscope than on Meerkat. I then became Meerkat heavy in the middle here. And thereafter, you can see over the past 3 weeks, similar to how Brian was talking about earlier, how he's streaming a lot now on both apps, I'm doing the same. I'm spending more or less an equal amount of time, if not even more time, in fact, on Periscope these days. So let me take a step back now and explain some more. So the reason that I stopped streaming on Periscope so much after this initial phase of launch was I didn't feel as though there was any community at all that existed on Periscope. In the early days, I wasn't doing much streaming here on Meerkat. I did maybe a total of 15 to 20 streams here, right? But even as a viewer, I viewed a lot of streams then, and the point was, as a viewer on Meerkat, I realized that there was a very, very strong sense of community there, right? I left Periscope because I felt as though there wasn't a community there. However, now that I've rejoined using Periscope a lot more, what I'm realizing is there is in fact a pretty small community, a pretty strong community, not small community, it's a large community, but there's a damn strong community on Periscope as well. Every time I hear people on Meerkat say, I'm only on Meerkat because the community is strong, Periscope has no community, I educate them. I tell them that this is bullshit. This is rubbish. This is not true. I've gone to a number of Periscope meetups here in New York City now, where I've gotten to know Josh Greenbaum, a number of other top Periscope people, and it's just really fantastic. The funny thing is, the first Periscope New York City meetup that I showed up and I was meerkatting the whole thing. So I was showing Josh, for example, who's an avid Periscoper, some of the features around Meerkat, and on Meerkat, he didn't realize that you can actually comment yourself as a streamer, which is pretty valuable. He didn't know that on Meerkat you can scroll up and down and catch up with the comments. So I had a large number of the Meerkat team in that stream, and they were just saying, yes, Josh, you have to try Meerkat out. We can do this, we can do that. It was really a lot of fun. My point is, this isn't Meerkat versus Periscope. I can have a relationship with Josh, who streams more heavily on Periscope, whereas I like streaming on both, and I love Meerkat. But this isn't Meerkat versus Periscope. This is about evangelizing live mobile video streaming and helping to push that towards the mainstream.
Here. And I can tell you the day that the Periscope community changed, and this is coming from an Apple fanboy, the day the Android app came out, Periscope community exploded with people engaging, people helping each other. And I don't know if it's the Android users or maybe the iOS users now felt because Android was there that everybody could be populated. But I was the same way as you. I was so disappointed in the Periscope community. Even you can ask Robert Stern and Mark Shaw. I challenged them and said Meerkat community is way better than anything Periscope has. The day Android app came out, that all changed. Android app came out, people started engaging, getting other people's streams, restreaming people, promoting other people, having a very community feel. So I think both of these apps have an amazing community feel, and I could give you 30 names of 30 streamers and 30 commenters on each app that are amazing community, amazing friends, all because of these apps. And I think that is something that is a great rumor. I'm glad you stifled that, Jeff, because I'm wearing a Meerkat shirt, but I am proud to say that the Periscope community now is extremely impressive, and that all changed when the Android app came out.
1 second. That's actually an interesting thought. I didn't realize that it was perhaps tied to launching on Android. What I figured was that in that first week or two, you just had an influx of users who were just messing around with the thing. They didn't care so much with the fact that the comments were fleeting. They wanted to test content out, see what sort of numbers they can put up. And so I more so attribute it to time and just growing up, I suppose. But that's a great point that you're bringing up there around, it being closely aligned with the launch on Android.
Well, yeah, and that's part of it for me too, is because I kind of felt like over half of my community was missing because they couldn't, like you said, Jeff, when you first got on Meerkat, I got on Meerkat, I was on the leaderboard. I mean, my claim to fame on that is I was at South by Southwest, and I was number 6. This is the highest I ever got on the Meerkat board. And Gary Vaynerchuk and Jimmy Fallon were the two of the people above me, and it was Nora and a couple other ones that were the only people, and Mitch, the only ones that are above me on the Meerkat leaderboard. And I remember that being like an awesome experience. But you were an Android Meerkat user, but you could only watch. You couldn't actually stream. So I think the fact, let's put this in perspective for everybody that's watching. These apps did not exist before February, and we didn't even have an Android app for both of them until middle of April. Therefore, we're only in July. We're so early on, and I use this example when I was on my keynote, and I mean it. Google was the 27th search engine. 27th. And I would disagree. Periscope's cocky. I agree Periscope does come across a little bit cocky. But for me, and it's funny. So who said that? You plan to Meerkat at the Periscope Summit. But for me, I think what it comes down to is that both of these apps are maturing, but we are so early on. Who knows what the third and fourth app is? Who knows what apps Twitter buys? Who knows who invested in Meerkat? So all of a sudden, maybe it's pushing out to Google Hangouts, and the Cameo feature can be done via a web camera and a GoPro, not just your iPhone. I think we're so early on, but I think that's part of what excites me about the whole platform.
I'm on the same boat, man. I mean, the space is nascent right now. And I think it was Vincenzo Landino, the first person at least that I heard that search engine thing around how Google was the 27th search engine. And that's a really great point. This is the analogy that I think is perhaps appropriate is this is the first inning of an extra inning ball game, right? Who knows where it's going to lead, but I want to be involved with it. That's kind of where I sit.
No, I couldn't agree more. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left. So any comments or things that are coming in on your side that you want to hit, or any, Jeff, do you have any upcoming broadcasts? I know your wife might be leaving the country, so there might be more live streaming in your near future, but do you have anything you want to clue people into or want to share? Because I'm excited that my community is able to get in touch with you. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of yours. I'm excited that we'll be able to meet in New York, hopefully within a month or so. But anything else that you want to talk about that you're doing or that you would love to kind of address in this one? Oh. What? Oh.
We keep hitting the mute at the same time. So yeah, likewise, man. I'm looking forward to hanging with you as well in New York, and I truly appreciate you sharing your community and your audience here with me. Thanks for the hearts, folks. By the way, really appreciate it. Content-wise, kind of expecting more of the same. I'll continue doing things here around New York City. I'm probably at some point over the next week or two going to go up to the Freedom Tower observation deck and share those views. Also, at some point over the next couple of weeks, I've got something planned which is going to be very fun. So one thing that I record pretty frequently are performers, subway musicians, vocalists, and that sort of thing. Brian, you mentioned earlier the thing with Duke Curry, how he was taking song requests on the saxophone, right? Really enjoy streaming with him. Yes, we do know about Catch Cats. So one thing I have planned is I met these two guys over in Grand Central who are rock and roll guys. They look like the modern day Wayne's World. They are absolutely hysterical. Their name is Heth and Jed. They had Mark Cuban sponsor production as they were trying to put together a sitcom, right? These guys are highly entertaining. They've been buskers for 15 years here in New York City. They've written a book. They have videos about passerbys, when they're spitting at them, telling them to get out of there, telling them they suck, confrontations with the police, really highly entertaining guys. So I'm going to be doing some streaming with them, both on Meerkat and Periscope. Once again, their names are Heth and Jed. You can follow them on Periscope, HETH and AND, Jed. And a really great group, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I think that they're going to be a big hit, both here on Periscope and on Meerkat. 100%, these guys are the modern day Wayne's World. It's hysterical.
Well, Jeff, I know you'll appreciate this. We're both married. We both live stream a lot. Our wives have to put up with a lot of our live streaming. You won my wife over because she fell asleep one night listening to the saxophonist, and we put in requests from my wife to Jeff, who's standing on the street inside of New York, and she just poked her head in and was laughing. But she literally fell asleep to a serenade from a saxophonist on the streets of New York. And I used the hashtag that could have been done before Meerkat or Periscope, and it could have been done with awesome streamers like yourself. So I love that. For me, I just launched yesterday my live streaming podcast. So 3 days a week, I'm going to do a live streaming podcast. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to give a tip, a tool, and a rant. And what I'm going to do is I have an email newsletter. It's going to go out every Sunday letting people know what time each one of those days I'm going to do that. So if they text iSocial, just one word, iSocial, to 33444, so 33444, they can jump into my email newsletter. You'll find out when I'm doing my podcast. And I'm actually going to bring in a user every month from the live streaming audience, so they can have they can use my podcast to give their own tip, their own tool, and their own rant. So that's my exciting project that I have coming up. And of course, I'm keynoting at the Periscope Summit, which I can't wait for, not to mention the fact I'll be in New York and get to meet you and see you there as well. So that's what I got. Jeff, this was a lot of fun. It's long overdue. We've been following each other. I've been friends for a long time. So I'm glad we finally locked this in and made this happen.
Absolutely, man. So we got 5 minutes or so left here. I think it'd be fun to talk about either, our most memorable stream, either one that we made ourselves or one that we have viewed thus far. So for me, we spoke about it a little bit earlier when you were talking about the Ed Sullivan Theater and the removal of the sign from the David Letterman show, right? So the backstory on this is, given I work as a consultant, I only have one client right now. I have the luxury of being able to do what I want when I want, and that's a great thing. I'm also pretty nocturnal, but very frequently I'll be in Times Square at 11 p.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m., 11 p.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., because for me, it's important to build audience globally, right? This is, as we spoke about earlier, this is kind of evergreen content. People always want to see Times Square. People always want to see New York. So that's kind of a tactic I've employed. That same day, I was in Times Square streaming on Meerkat at 3 a.m. One of the viewers in my Meerkat stream says, "Hey, Jeff, not sure how far you are from the Ed Sullivan Theater, but there's some guy up there right now scoping it. You should go up there. You should go check out what's going on there. So take a moment to swallow this here. So one of my viewers on Meerkat says, hey, Jeff, there's someone on Periscope up there. That's how I was notified about it. That's how I discovered what was happening. Well, all the mainstream media was asleep. I then go up there and I see this guy speaking very loudly into his phone. Turns out to be Ron Waxman, who I've since become friends with. So I sneak up from behind him and I immediately jokingly, I start streaming. I say, hey guys, how's it going? We're over here at Ed Sullivan Theater and there's some other guy over here streaming, but he's using the wrong app. He's using Periscope. And this got his attention. He looked back at me and kind of laughed, right? I mean, I obviously was joking, but it was a lot of fun. And the story is Ron discovered that this was happening because John Ehrlichman was streaming there earlier in the night. John had left because he lost battery. But to me, that was just a really impactful, powerful moment, right? Not only because I got to see this and share it with folks like Brian and everybody else, this footage, believe it or not, in fact, was used on CBS National News. There was no mainstream media there. I had someone from the CBS News desk come into my stream and ask me that they were doing a live broadcast. Can they tap into my stream? I said, absolutely. Later on in that day, just credit me, just give me attribution here. Later on in the day, someone from the CBS National News reached out to me. It was used on national news as well. So both the fact that there was a live stream being leveraged on national news and also the fact that I met Ron and Mo Interactive and also indirectly connected with John Ehrlichman by way of this, it was very powerful stuff. As a result, I also was interviewed by the International Business Times and discussing kind of the impact of live streaming on traditional TV news. So for me, that's my most memorable stream, and I'd love to hear yours, Brian.
Well, I can tell you that was one of my most memorable that I've watched. And how cool is it that one of your most memorable Meerkat streams was thankful to a Periscope watcher who jumped in your stream and told you, like, that's the power of live streaming community. We have to help each other. This is about bridging and providing the most value. I remember I stayed up for 2 hours longer than I should have, watching you standing outside because the sign almost came down, then it almost came down, and then it came down. For me, it's funny because you said that, and I started thinking my very first Meerkat is still powerful to me because I'm in Barcelona. I'm at Mobile World Congress on the expo floor. There's 85,000 people at this event. Someone texted me from Twitter that works at Twitter and said, hey, Brian, this new app came out that you'd probably like. Gary Vaynerchuk and Ashton Kutcher are on it right now. Download it. So I, of course, downloaded it. I hit the little button. I put the hashtag for the event in it, and I hit stream. And what the crazy part was, I was like, oh, this is cool. Well, it's not much different than my video blog. And I kind of walked around, and someone commented and simply said, Brian, is that the new Samsung phone? Can you walk over and show me the Samsung phone? And immediately my mind was blown because not only was this more than my video blog, but someone in the United States watching via my phone was able to help shape the content that I was providing. That blew my mind. It led to South by Southwest, where I got to there's plenty of screenshots where I was actually taking selfies and then walked around the building with Gary Vaynerchuk for 20 minutes, all captured on Meerkat. To me, that was like my favorite one. But the aha moment from my very first one is something that I don't forget, because I think if we forget that aspect, that it's all about the commenters, it's all about the engagers, then we miss the concept here. And I think you're going to send us off with a little with a dummy or some little trick there.
Yes, this is my family comes from Russia. They're from St. Petersburg, Leningrad. They came here to the States a few years before I was born. And, there's a number of Russian kind of memorabilia throughout my apartment here. And this is one of my favorite ones. I like to call this guy Boris. So this was given to me by my uncle, just some armed forces Russian guy. And Russians, they love their vodka, right? So naturally, Boris can store vodka here in his body. Pretty fantastic. So I keep this in the background of some of my streams just because I think it's funny. That's all.
I love it, Jeff. That's a great way to end it. Thank you, Boris, for sending this correctly. Guys, make sure to follow Jeff Golberg. You hear me talk about him all the time. Jeff, we will do this again.
Thank you. Good stuff. Thanks, Brian.
All right, thanks, my man. Have a good one.
All right.